Hi, I'm Andy, and in this video I'm sharing some tips on how to get started in Final Cut Pro 10. Now you can just start with Final Cut, open it up, start importing footage, start editing. There's loads of tutorials on how to do lots of different things, but before you do anything, my recommendation would be to create a template folder. Use that template folder to import your media into that, and then open Final Cut to create the library, and use the folder you've already created as your sort of base, your source for all of the files. That way you don't have to inflate the size of the library with all the media. And if you want to, you can then share that library with people who have the raw footage. It makes it easier to edit and share with other people. So here's the template folder I use. If you double click on it, open it up, you can see I have several folders within, some of which I use a lot, some of which I very rarely use, and I delete the ones I don't use. So what I would recommend is that you have a copy of this somewhere on one of your systems, bring it over, and then rename the folder whenever you start a new film or series of films. So I'm going to rename this test. Now I'm ready to import media into this. Some GH5S footage, some GH5 footage from Joe, and a bit of music. I want to drag this across into my edit media original. And you can imagine this might be, the footage might be coming straight from your media card or someone else's hard drive. Ideally, you will have already named it or sorted through it, but it's not 100% necessary. What I do is I actually save it onto a RAID drive, so that as soon as I get the data out of the camera, it goes onto two separate hard drives mirrored, so that if there's any corruption, if one hard drive fails, then I have a copy backup just in case. So I'm going to drag these across into the original folder, and this into the original folder here. Oops, put that back there. So we've got the GH5, GH5S, and then we'll go to audio, music, and we'll put the music in there as well. Now and only now are we ready to open Final Cut Pro and create the library. Go to Final Cut and create a new library. Now in this instance, I want to put the new library in my new folder. We're going to call it test new, and click save. Now it's important to note there are three different groupings of files or folders within Final Cut, within the program itself. One is a library, second is an event, and the third is a project. So the library, I view that kind of like, if you're, let's say you're doing film for your job, a library could be the business. So you create a library and all of the data that you have for that library is under that business. If you create multiple videos for that company, you might have a series of videos on one type of product. That I would put into an event, all of that data into an event. And then let's say you did another shoot with the same business. This time it was on a recruitment drive. They wanted adverts for recruitment that they can put out on LinkedIn or wherever. So that would be in a different event, different subject, perhaps different target audience, that kind of thing. Within each of the events, you can have several projects. And a project would be literally an edited film. Take the recruitment drive, for example. You might have a 1:30 recruitment video. Perhaps that's played to people when they've already applied, or perhaps when they're in the process of applying. But to get people to apply first, you might make a separate promo that's only 30 seconds long, that's sort of almost like an advert for them. So you can have two different projects within the same event, around the same topic, but the two different projects are slightly different lengths, or they have different purposes. Another way to look at it might be that a Final Cut Pro library could be a series on Netflix. So let's say it's, I don't know, Mindhunter. Mindhunter is the library, the whole series is the library. An event is a season, and a project would be an episode. Now, before you do any importing, you want to check the storage location settings. The storage location settings, the media are the imported files, However, because we've saved our files already in the template folder, we're not worried about the library for the imported files so much because we're keeping them there. And this also stores the proxy and optimize files. Motion content, that's really down to effects, transitions, titles, generators. I leave that where it is. That saves it to my hard drive. Cache, again, I leave this where it is in the library. This is the render files, analysis files, thumbnails, images, and audio waveform files. So I leave that there. Backups. Now this is important, especially if you're editing on a single hard drive. It's really good to have your backups on a separate hard drive. So if all fails, you can have some form of redundancy. So in this case, you can choose where you're going to put the backups. By default, it saves it in a Final Cut Pro backups like this. So we can choose that one there. Go OK. So we've created a template folder. We've saved our files in that template folder in specifically named folders. We've opened Final Cut and created a new library. We've made sure that we know where we're saving the information as we go along working with Final Cut. We've talked about the different types of media used within Final Cut. And finally, now we can get into importing the files into Final Cut. I select the event. And you can either, in the first instance, when there's no media at all, you can click this import media button. Otherwise, you can click this button up here or go to import media, or you can just press Apple I, click to the desktop. We want to go to where we saved the folders in our folder here, go to original. This is one of the tricks that I really enjoy in Final Cut. So if you select these two folders, hold down the Command key when you're selecting them and the music folder. Now we're going to look at the information panel on the right here. So we're adding to the existing event. Yeah, that's fine. Now I want to make sure I'm leaving files in place. I don't need to copy this to the library because I've already copied it into our folder. Leave that in place. And then we're taking keywords from folders. Because we've selected the two folders, we're taking keywords from the folders. You'll see that what that means in a sec. If your computer is a bit slow, then creating proxy media is a really good idea because it creates a duplicate file which is much smaller in size, which is therefore able to process much more easily. Analyze video for balance and color, find people, analyze. I ignore them, to be honest, because I do a bit of post myself. I like to do a bit of color myself. Tend to white balance before it goes in, and I consider that I have a fairly decent audio signal path. I ignore them. So click import. All this footage will come in pretty quick because we're not creating proxies. There we go. Ready to start looking at the footage that we've just brought in. Now, because we copied them over from folders and we selected the keywords from folders option, up here beneath the in the little drop-down box from the event, now we've got these automatic keywords that have been selected. This is great because now we can navigate from just the GH5 footage, the GH5S footage, and the music independently. So as we're editing or as we're favoriting using other different keywords, we can select the difference. So if you've got an A cam and B cam, for example, you can name the folders like that. Or if you've got the microphones, if you've got a lapel mic and a room mic, for example, you can put them in different folders, and it automatically brings them in with the keywords. You can also press Command K, bringing up the keyword window, and you can add new keywords as you go along. Now, one final thing before the end of this video, just selecting what Final Cut considers the audio files, or the files to be. So in this instance, and we know this is music, but as it's come in, it's claimed that this is dialogue. So we just need to go to the information panel, change that to music, and now that changes it to music. It just behaves slightly differently. Now, if you want to learn more about Final Cut, perhaps some editing techniques, we're going to look at audio signal path, we're going to look at the video process, we're going to look at some drone footage. Subscribe, and hopefully see you in the next video. Bye.